And we are covering this fallout from Trump's ailing trade war. Markets have tanked, and they did stabilize a bit over the hopes the tariffs would end. Now they remain low, and the reality is setting in, which is our top story, because we are seeing the MAGA talking points stretched to the breaking point in trying to defend the ongoing cost of the trade war. There are now comparisons of President Trump to Scrooge himself, the villain in A Christmas Carol, or Scrooge McDuck, if you remember that version, who infamously opposed any holiday cheer. Also comparisons to Marie Antoinette, as the economic newspaper The Financial Times says that Trump has reached the negative Marie Antoinette moment, let them eat cake, as he calls for national sacrifice. The Times says it's falling flat since it's a sacrifice of Trump's own making, his own policies. Meanwhile, the economy is revealing more and more ominous cracks.
They charge us, we charge them.
This, I think fair to say, is worse than the worst case scenario of the tariffs.
Burning down the House to cook a steak.
The Dow, the S&P, and the NASDAQ all down between 3.5% and now 5%.
Economic Armageddon.
Trump's trade war wiping trillions of dollars in value from these markets.
I know very few people, very few people, I can probably count them on a hand, who think that this is a good idea.
The president paused his additional tariffs on dozens of our trading partners for the next 90 days.
Always we're complacent with China saying, ooh, let's not make them mad.
This head-to-head really between President Trump and Fed Chair Jay Powell.
In the long run, will it hurt the country? 51%.
The U.S. economy shrinking for the first time in 3 years.
Tariff turmoil sending GDP into the red, stocks selling off a bit as the president's trade war now leading to big questions about where this economy is heading.
Somebody said, oh, the shelves are going to be open. Well, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30, you know? And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally.
Excuse me, the guy with marble fountains and a golden country club is lecturing us on the folly of material possessions. The guy we all know is this character from The White Lotus.
I just don't think at this age I'm meant to live an uncomfortable life.
There you have it, from the real to the punchlines. And you'll notice we went through the 100 days. We are now past it. The now infamous doll remark coming one day past the 100-day mark. The president's talk of fewer toys has drawn mockery as an obvious gaffe. That includes even from some conservative media. And it's living on as Trump doubles down on his version of some kind of austerity defense.
When you say they could have $3 instead of $30, are you saying Americans could see empty store shelves?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they don't need to have $30. They can have 3. They don't need to have 250 pencils. They can have 5.
But you're basically saying there could be some supply shortages because of the tariffs. We don't have to waste money
on a trade deficit with China for things we don't need, for junk that we don't need.
Don't buy junk, the president says. Remember, this is all coming out of the negative. He first promised manufacturing would come back. Peter Navarro said the trade deals were being negotiated and written as we speak. No manufacturing has come back. No trade deals have yet materialized in public. If they do, we'll report on them. But we've gone from just those false and hollow claims and predictions to now the president telling people not to buy foreign junk or to buy toys or pencils. But where does he think these things come from? It's becoming a kind of austerity plan where he just tells everyone sort of blithely, don't buy stuff that kids might need. And it brings these comparisons, as I mentioned, of Trump to Scrooge or Scrooge McDuck. Everyone's favorite Scrooge, if you had to pick one, tomato. But the point is that that is his allies, including in some conservative outlets, like I mentioned, embracing the branding of a greedy rich person who is out of touch as a kind of warning signal to Trump. Meanwhile, here's domestically on more of the political side what concerns Republican strategists.
I thought it was really problematic when he said, well, you know what? The kids, those little girls at Christmas, they don't need $30. They can do it, too. And if they have to pay a couple more bucks for them, OK. Well, it sounds like Mr. Scrooge.
I think it's really damaging messaging. It's a little bit of a let them eat cake moment, I think, for the president.
Again, those are both Republicans. The concerns there, as stated, are about messaging or spin or PR, as we all hear it in politics. But that messaging is about an underlying reality. And I want to remind you, This isn't going away. This is our life. This is why we cover the news, whether we like what's happening or not. The reality under Trump is the tariff costs on Americans go well beyond the toys. There are mounting construction costs. There's concern about cracks in the housing market. Then there's a brand in America that's so big, Donald Trump has tried to get in on its cachet. McDonald's noting, and there's Trump, you might remember in the campaign, actually cosplaying as a McDonald's worker, but that company is now noting that the tariffs from Trump are hurting McDonald's and eventually consumers. On the smaller scale, regular local businesses say tariffs could put them under. Big retailers warning of the empty shelves in a matter of weeks, something you heard Kristen Welker mention to the president. And meanwhile, there's a context to all this. And this part might be a little obvious, but I want to emphasize it. Trump is saying less dolls for you, but he still wants more money, payouts, and perks for himself. He's pocketing millions in these digital currency projects. He's hawking access to the White House for donations, some of which may not be traceable through this crypto, let alone accountable. The Times reports that Trump's sons, Don and Eric, are also continuing to get big payouts in these foreign country deals, a luxury hotel in Dubai, a second high-end residential tower in Saudi Arabia, a new golf course and villa complex in Qatar. All of this in New Times reporting. And that is just the money side of the alleged grift and abuse. Remember, many of Trump's other efforts to abuse federal power, which are going on now and been debated right now, are still in exchange for rewards for himself. They're grinding forward, even though they're not all initially monetary like the crypto. So consider how many of those bids, I want to remind you, they boil down to Trump trying to get something for himself out of his public service, which is supposed to be for you, for public interest, paid by tax dollars. He's not supposed to settle scores, let alone demand payouts and shakedowns, but he's targeting law firms and demanding they spend money on time on his chosen projects. Allegedly, CBS's parent company has been under the impression, they think, from Trump and his allies, that they have to soften Trump coverage, that's the gift he wants, in order to have the Trump administration approve a business deal. This is also part of the gap and the grift. Critics say it is obvious pay for play. As we reported, the nonpartisan 60 Minutes chief resigned over this. Others might try blowing the whistle or talking to reporters anonymously while holding on to their jobs. Not everyone's in the economic position to quit in protest in the middle of a career. Many experts say that grift, as exposed here in the first 100 days, is probably just the tip of the iceberg. And so that's all going on, the pocketing, the deals, the pay for play, while Trump continues to lecture the general public, the regular American family, about cutting back on dolls or pencils. It is quite a contrast. If you saw it in a movie about some politician that was not on the level, you might say it was a bit too overdone. Trump's Republican allies, who used to hammer inflation costs in the Biden era, was a big topic of the debate. Now, those Republicans say paying the higher price of this Trump era is, I guess, some kind of acceptable part of pain for Americans.
No pain, no gain. That's what we used to tell our football players. There's going to be some pain with tariffs.
And there could be some pain along the way.
Yeah.
But you will be thankful once you go through the tough stuff.
There's absolutely going to be short-term pain. The president's been clear about that. Everyone has.
I'm behind the president 100%. There'll be disruption and pain on the front end.
There will be pain is now become present tense. There is pain. Consumer confidence is down. The markets are down. Trump's approval also down. Republicans defending economic pain as a talking point. You can see it's become something they repeat because apparently lying about how bad things are would likely make voters angrier when people can check their retirement accounts. They can see the costs. They can hear on whatever media channel they use the president not saying things are good or buy what you want or let's grow together, best times are ahead, but rather saying maybe your kids have too many dolls. Maybe your kids have too many pencils, so cut back. Now, Trump says he does have responsibility for his tariffs' impact. He kind of coughed that up when pressed by NBC's Kristen Welker in this new interview.
When does it become the Trump economy?
It partially is right now. and I really mean this, I think the good parts are the Trump economy and the bad parts are the Biden economy.
But, sir, you acknowledge when you announced your tariffs, for example, the stock market dropped. It's been volatile. It has since gone up.
It is,
Do you
but now
take
it's going up.
responsibility
Look at
for that?
today.
Yeah. Do you
Well,
take responsibility
look,
when it drops?
Ultimately, I take responsibility for everything, but I've only just been here for a little more than 3 months.
It has been just over 3 months. But that's also part of Trump's problem. A factual review of what's happened in that time, including the economy, as we showed you over the days, shows Trump's governing problems and the tariff confusion and the trillions of dollars wiped out. Economic experts and MAGA allies also pleaded with him across those days when we got to day 40 and 50 and 60. They, who support him in general, as we reported, were pleading with him to stop making it worse with a trade war that foreseeably, predictably hurt the American consumer. And we've tracked how, one could say, from the markets to the mall, to the windows to the wall. Trump's market is a depressing picture of how to get low, get low, get low, but in a bad way, if you will.